The night sky over the small town of Black Hollow was unusually bright. A streak of fiery light tore through the atmosphere, illuminating the dense forest that surrounded the town. The townsfolk, accustomed to quiet nights and starry skies, gathered on their porches, pointing and murmuring in awe. Some thought it was a meteor, others whispered about government experiments. But no one could have guessed the truth. Deep within the forest, the object, a sleek, metallic spacecraft, crashed into the earth with a deafening roar. The impact sent shockwaves through the trees, scattering wildlife in all directions. Smoke billowed from the crater, and the air was thick with the scent of burning metal and charred earth. Inside the wreckage, a figure stirred. Zanara, an alien from the distant planet of Krylos, groaned as she pushed herself up from the control panel. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, and her large, almond-shaped eyes scanned the damaged interior of her ship. She was injured, her energy reserves dangerously low. Her species relied on a unique form of energy, one that could only be replenished through a symbiotic connection with another living being. Without it, she would perish. Zanara activated her wrist device, a holographic map of the area flickering to life. She needed to find a host, a human, quickly. The device detected a nearby energy signature, faint but promising. With a grimace, she stumbled out of the ship and into the forest, her movements unsteady but determined. Meanwhile, in a small cabin on the edge of the forest, 17-year-old Liam Carter was finishing his homework. The crash had shaken the windows of his home, and he'd rushed outside to see what had happened. The fiery streak in the sky had vanished, but the air felt charged, as if something monumental had occurred. Liam, a curious and adventurous soul, grabbed his flashlight and headed into the woods, ignoring his mother's warnings to stay inside. The forest was eerily quiet, the usual sounds of crickets and owls absent. Liam's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing broken branches and disturbed earth. He followed the trail of destruction, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. When he reached the crater, his breath caught in his throat. The spacecraft was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Its surface was smooth and reflective, covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as he moved closer. Smoke still rose from the wreckage, and the air was thick with an otherworldly energy. Liam hesitated, unsure whether to approach or run. Before he could decide, a voice called out, weak but clear. "Help me." Liam spun around, his flashlight beam landing on Zanara. She was leaning against a tree, her silver skin glistening with sweat, her eyes pleading. Liam froze, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. An alien. A real, live alien. "Please," Zanara said, her voice trembling. "I need your help." Liam's instincts kicked in. Despite his fear, he couldn't leave her there. He stepped closer, his flashlight shaking in his hand. What are you?" "I am Zanara," she said, her voice soft but urgent. "I mean you no harm. But I am dying. I need your energy to survive." Liam's eyes widened. "My energy? What does that mean?" Zanara reached out a slender hand, her fingers glowing faintly. "A bond. A connection. It will not harm you, but it will save me. Please." Liam hesitated. This was insane. He should run, call for help, do anything but agree to this. But something in her eyes, desperation, vulnerability, made him pause. He took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay. What do I need to do?" Zanara's relief was palpable. She stepped closer, her hand hovering over his chest. "This will only take a moment." A warm, tingling sensation spread through Liam's body as Zanara's hand made contact with his chest. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he felt as if he were floating. Then, just as quickly as it began, the sensation faded. Zanara stepped back, her color restored, her strength returning. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You have saved my life." Liam blinked, trying to process what had just happened. "So, we're connected now?" Zanara nodded. "For as long as I remain on this planet, our bond will sustain me. But there is more you need to know. My presence here is not without danger. There are others who will come looking for me, and they will not be as friendly." Liam's heart sank. "Others? Like, more aliens?" "Yes," Zanara said grimly. "And they will stop at nothing to capture me." Liam swallowed hard. His life had just taken a turn he could never have imagined. But as he looked at Zanara, he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't abandon her. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The days that followed the crash were a whirlwind of confusion and secrecy. Liam had managed to sneak Zanara into his home, hiding her in the attic where his parents rarely ventured. He brought her food, water, and whatever supplies she needed, all while trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. But it wasn't easy. Zanara's presence had changed him. The bond they shared was more than just a physical connection, it was as if a part of her had become intertwined with his very being. He could sense her emotions, her thoughts, even her memories. It was overwhelming at times, but also strangely comforting. One evening, as they sat in the attic, Zanara explained more about her world and the reason she had come to Earth. Krylos was a dying planet, its resources depleted by centuries of war and exploitation. Zanara's people, the Krylosians, had been searching for a new home, but their efforts had been thwarted by a ruthless enemy, the Vraks, a race of merciless conquerors who sought to enslave or destroy any civilization they encountered. "The Vraks are the ones who will come for me," Zanara said, her voice heavy with worry. "They have been hunting us for years, and they will not stop until they have captured every last Krylosian." Liam frowned. "But why you? What's so special about you?" Zanara hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. "I am different. My abilities are rare, even among my kind. The Vraks believe that by capturing me, they can harness my power for their own purposes." Liam's eyes widened. "What kind of abilities?" Zanara held out her hand, and a small orb of light appeared, hovering just above her palm. "I can manipulate energy in ways that most Krylosians cannot. It is both a gift and a curse." Liam stared at the orb, mesmerized. "That's incredible. But, why didn't you use it to stop the Vraks?" "I tried," Zanara said, her voice tinged with regret. "But I was outnumbered. My ship was damaged, and I had no choice but to flee. That is how I ended up here." Liam nodded, his mind racing. He couldn't imagine the weight of Zanara's burden, but he knew one thing: he would do whatever it took to protect her. "We'll figure this out," he said firmly. "Together." Zanara smiled, a rare expression of warmth. "Thank you, Liam. Your kindness means more to me than you know." As the days passed, their bond grew stronger. Liam found himself drawn to Zanara in ways he couldn't fully understand. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, wise, compassionate, and fiercely determined. But their connection also came with challenges. The more time they spent together, the more Liam's own energy seemed to wane. It was as if the bond was draining him, slowly but surely. One night, as they sat beneath the stars on the roof of Liam's house, Zanara noticed the dark circles under his eyes. "Liam," she said softly, "you are weakening. The bond is taking too much from you." Liam shrugged, trying to downplay his exhaustion. "I'm fine." "Really?" Zanara shook her head. "No, you are not. I cannot allow this to continue. If the bond is harming you, I must find another way to survive." Liam's heart sank. The thought of losing Zanara was unbearable. There has to be another solution. Maybe we can strengthen the bond somehow, make it more balanced. Zanara considered this, her expression thoughtful. Perhaps. But it will require great trust and sacrifice from both of us. Are you willing to take that risk? Liam didn't hesitate. Yes. Whatever it takes. Zanara nodded, her resolve firm. Then we will try. But we must be careful. The Vraks are not the only danger we face. There are others who may seek to exploit our bond for their own gain. Liam frowned. What do you mean? Zanara's eyes darkened. There are those who would use our connection to harness my power, even if it means destroying you in the process. We must remain vigilant. Liam felt a chill run down his spine. The stakes were higher than he had realized. But as he looked at Zanara, he knew he couldn't back down. They were in this together, for better or worse. The Vraks arrived without warning. Their ships descended upon Black Hollow like a swarm of locusts, their dark, angular forms blotting out the sun. The townsfolk panicked, fleeing to their homes as the alien invaders began their search. Liam and Zanara watched from the attic window, their hearts pounding. They're here, Zanara whispered, her voice filled with dread. They've found me. Liam clenched his fists, his mind racing. We need to get out of here. If they find you. Zanara nodded. We must leave. But we cannot do it alone. We need help. Liam thought for a moment, then grabbed his phone. I know someone who might be able to help us. He dialed a number, his hands trembling. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Liam? What's going on? There's some crazy stuff happening outside. Elena, Liam said, his voice urgent. I need your help. It's complicated. Can you meet me at the old mill? There was a pause on the other end. Liam, you're scaring me. What's going on? I'll explain when you get there. Please, Elena. Trust me. Another pause, then a sigh. Okay. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Liam hung up and turned to Zanara. Elena's my best friend. She's smart, resourceful, and she'll do anything to help. If anyone can help us, it's her. Zanara nodded, though her expression was still wary. I hope you are right. They slipped out of the house and made their way to the old mill, a crumbling structure on the outskirts of town. Elena was already there, her arms crossed and her expression a mix of concern and annoyance. Liam, what the hell is going on? And who is this? Liam took a deep breath. Elena, this is Zanara. She's not from around here. Elena's eyes widened as she took in Zanara's silver skin and otherworldly appearance. You've got to be kidding me. It's a long story, Liam said quickly. But the short version is that she's in danger, and we need your help to get her out of here. Elena stared at him, then at Zanara, then back at him. You're serious. Dead serious, Liam said. Please, Elena. We don't have much time. Elena hesitated, then nodded. Okay. But you owe me one hell of an explanation. With Elena's help, they devised a plan. The Vraks were searching the town systematically, so they needed to create a diversion to buy themselves time. Elena suggested using the old mill's generator to create a power surge, which would draw the Vraks' attention while they made their escape. As they worked to set up the diversion, Zanara watched Elena closely. You are brave, she said. Not many humans would risk so much for a stranger. Elena shrugged, though her cheeks flushed slightly. Liam's my friend. If he says you're worth helping, then I trust him. Zanara smiled, a genuine expression of gratitude. Thank you. The diversion worked. The power surge lit up the night sky, drawing the Vraks away from the town. Liam, Zanara, and Elena made their way to the forest, where Zanara's ship was hidden. But as they approached the crash site, they were met with a chilling sight. The Vraks had found the ship. A group of Vrax soldiers stood around the wreckage, their dark armor glinting in the moonlight. One of them, a tall, imposing figure with a scar across his face, seemed to be in charge. He turned as Liam and the others approached, his eyes narrowing. "So," he said, his voice cold and menacing. "The Krylosian has found herself some allies. How quaint." Liam stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Leave her alone." The Vrax leader smirked. "Brave words from a mere human. But you are no match for us." Zanara stepped forward, her eyes blazing with defiance. "You will not take me." The Vrax leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "We shall see." The battle that followed was fierce. Zanara unleashed her energy powers, creating barriers and blasts of light to hold off the Vrax. Liam and Elena fought with whatever they could find, sticks, rocks, even their bare hands. But the Vrax were relentless, their advanced technology and superior strength giving them the upper hand. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, a new figure appeared. A man, dressed in a long coat and carrying a strange, glowing device, stepped out of the shadows. He raised the device, and a burst of energy sent the Vrax soldiers flying. "Who the hell are you?" Liam demanded, his voice shaking. The man smirked. "Name's Jackson. And it looks like you could use a hand." Jackson was an enigma. He moved with the confidence of someone who had seen it all, his eyes sharp and calculating. He didn't offer much in the way of explanation, but his actions spoke louder than words. With his help, they managed to drive the Vrax back, at least temporarily. As they regrouped in the forest, Zanara studied Jackson with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "Who are you?" she asked. "And why did you help us?" Jackson shrugged, his expression unreadable. "Let's just say I have a vested interest in keeping the Vrax from getting what they want. As for who I am, well, that's a long story." Liam frowned. "We don't have time for games. If you're going to help us, we need to know we can trust you." Jackson's smirk faded, replaced by a more serious expression. "Fair enough. I'm part of a group, a resistance, if you will. We've been fighting the Vrax for years, trying to stop them from conquering every planet they come across. When I heard they were heading to Earth, I came to see what they were after. Turns out, it's you." He nodded at Zanara. Zanara's eyes narrowed. "And what do you want with me?" Jackson held up his hands in a placating gesture. "Relax. I'm not here to capture you. But your abilities, they could be a game changer. If we can harness your power, we might stand a chance against the Vrax." Liam stepped forward, his protective instincts kicking in. "She's not a weapon. She's a person." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "I'm not suggesting we treat her like one. But the fact remains that she's a target, and the Vrax won't stop until they have her. If we're going to protect her, and this planet, we need to work together." Zanara considered this, her expression thoughtful. "He is right," she said finally. "I cannot do this alone. If joining forces with your resistance gives us a chance, then I am willing to try." Liam hesitated, but he knew Zanara was right. They needed all the help they could get. "Okay," he said. "But we do this on our terms. No secrets, no hidden agendas." Jackson nodded. "Deal." With Jackson's guidance, they made their way to a hidden base deep in the mountains. The resistance was a ragtag group of fighters from various worlds, all united by a common goal, to stop the Vrax. They welcomed Zanara with a mix of awe and curiosity, recognizing her as a potential ally. As they settled in, Zanara began to train with the resistance, learning to control and amplify her powers. Liam and Elena stayed by her side, offering support and encouragement. But the bond between Liam and Zanara continued to take its toll. Liam's energy was fading, and it was becoming increasingly clear that they needed to find a way to balance the connection. One night, as they sat by a campfire, Zanara turned to Liam. "There is a way to strengthen the bond without harming you," she said. "But it will require a great sacrifice." Liam frowned. "What kind of sacrifice?" Zanara hesitated. "We must merge our energies completely. It will make the bond permanent, but it will also mean that we are forever linked. If one of us dies, the other will as well." Liam's heart skipped a beat. The idea was terrifying, but he knew it was the only way. "If it means keeping you safe, then I'm willing to take that risk." Zanara's eyes filled with tears. "You are truly brave, Liam. I do not deserve your loyalty." Liam smiled, taking her hand. "You're worth it." The ritual was intense, a swirling vortex of energy that enveloped them both. When it was over, they felt a new sense of unity, their bond stronger than ever. But the peace was short-lived. The Vrax had found them. The Vrax attacked at dawn, their ships descending upon the Resistance base with terrifying precision. The fighters scrambled to defend themselves, but the Vrax's numbers were overwhelming. Liam, Zanara, and Elena fought side by side, their bond giving them an edge. Zanara's powers were at their peak, her energy blasts cutting through the Vrax forces like a hot knife through butter. But even with their combined strength, it wasn't enough. The Vrax leader, the same scarred figure they had encountered before, emerged from the chaos. He raised a weapon, a glowing blade that crackled with energy, and charged at Zanara. Liam stepped in front of her, his own weapon, a makeshift spear, raised. "You'll have to go through me first." The Vrax leader smirked. "As you wish." The battle was brutal. Liam fought with everything he had, but the Vrax leader was a skilled warrior. Just as it seemed Liam was about to be overpowered, Zanara intervened, her energy blasting the Vrax leader back. But the victory was short-lived. The Vrax leader recovered quickly, his blade slicing through Zanara's defenses. She cried out in pain, her energy faltering. Liam's heart raced. If Zanara died, he would too. But more than that, he couldn't bear to lose her. Summoning every ounce of strength, he charged at the Vrax leader, his spear piercing the alien's armor. The Vrax leader staggered, his eyes wide with shock. Then, with a final, guttural cry, he collapsed. The remaining Vrax forces, seeing their leader fall, retreated. The Resistance cheered, their victory hard-won but sweet. As the dust settled, Liam rushed to Zanara's side. She was weak, her energy depleted, but alive. "We did it," she whispered, her voice filled with relief. Liam nodded, tears in his eyes. "We did." In the days that followed, the Resistance regrouped and prepared for the next battle. The Vrax would return, they knew, but for now, they had won a crucial victory. Liam and Zanara's bond remained strong, a testament to their courage and sacrifice. Together, they had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. And as they looked to the future, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together.